Hello, that's 51st Peril. I'm Samuel. The phrase of the day is time management. Guess who had to write the intro in a bus while headed to the studio to record a podcast? Any ideas? Jokes aside, today I have someone who I really enjoy talking to. We met with this person on a hiking trip, and you know what? It turns out he is an alumnus of this university, so stay tuned as Janek reveals some uncomfortable details about studying here at Wrocław University of Science and Technology. Hello, Janek, and how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast.
Yeah, sure. I'm really glad that you are here now, and we can talk to each other. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I see where it's going.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great, exactly. So, okay, where to begin with? Let's begin with this question. How are you connected to this university? Can you tell us?
So I started studying here in 2018, and the studies I went to was on the Faculty of Electronics with the topic of let me think of it. I think it was electrical and computer engineering, which was like an interdisciplinary approach between electronics and computer engineering. Those studies were great because they showed me two sides. So they showed me how it looks from the electronic side and from the computer side, so like more programming side. They made me just realize that I'm not a huge fan of electronics. Okay. That's why I'm working in IT right now. But the problem was that I always felt that the topics and all of like the approach of electronics and computer engineering was kind of like apart from each other. They weren't like trying to connect this. So this was like a big problem that I kind of like always thought. And I also noticed that there were like two groups of people because, you know, it was computer and electronic engineering. So everyone who looked at this, it wasn't like, okay, this sounds great. The combination sounds great. It was like, oh, electronics, oh, computer engineering. Yeah. So what ended up being was two groups of people, one preferring electronics, one preferring computer engineering. And I can tell you, you know, they didn't like each other that much, okay? It wasn't bad, but there was some, you know.
But now, again, I'm not sure if you know that, but they divided some departments. So now it is two different departments.
Yes, I remember it was also a case in my studying because I was on the V4.
This division.
Yeah, electronic one. So I was in the fourth faculty, which was electronics one. Then I moved into the 12th one, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember, but it was really funny because it kind of blocked us in applying to the master studies. And this was really funny because they made this when we are still studying, so it was like, okay, we are changing, you know, the faculty is like, okay,
yeah, whatever.
I mean, whatever. I don't care. Like, I'm finishing my studies in half a year. I don't care.
Just regular here at the university. So
yeah, that's true.
You said that it blocked you from your master's studies. So what do you mean by saying that?
It kind of like not. So the problem was that you can either go to because I wanted to go to IT, so I wanted to go to what is it called, computer science, I think, masters. The problem was that I get extra points if I am on the faculty number 4 electronics, but I don't get extra points if I'm on faculty 12.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I have to go to electronics because that was the faculty of electronics. The new one was the main faculty of electronics. So I was like, okay, I'm not into electronics. I wasn't thinking about the studies. I was like, okay, let's wait a year. Then yeah, I waited, and now I know that I will not go to master studies.
Okay, so what changed your perspective?
I got to work, and when you start working, you realize, okay, do I really need a master's? And you really have to ask this question to yourself really badly: is this gonna benefit me in the workplace? And in my opinion, there is like this funny paradox that you can notice is that whenever I ask someone who doesn't have a master studies, okay, should I go for master studies? They say, yes, definitely. It's going to help you a lot.
Yeah.
But when I talk to people who are in the process of obtaining or already have master studies, they say, okay, this was not worth it time. Because
you should absolutely not go to.
Yeah, you don't waste your time. Just focus on because the problem with current universities is that the learning process is really slow. And especially in the terms of like, we having lots of knowledge in the internet and also now introduction of AI that can really faster the research process. it's really easy to get knowledge in the internet.
Mhm.
And the question is, why should you go to university?
When you can, do that instead with the internet.
But there is one thing that is really beneficial when a recruiter sees you're applying and you have finished studies.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guess what is it? What does it tell you that, okay, this person finished the studies? What does it tell you about this person?
I mean that he was he dedicated his time to do that, and that he was persistent.
Definitely, that's the point. He was able to go for, let's say, in the case of engineering studies, 3.5 years to one studies, and he was able to, get an acceptable level of performance for 3.5 years, which is great. And this is okay, this person completed her studies. This is something that people look for, but it's nowadays not something that is a must, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So this dynamic is changing. One thing also that is really useful to do during the studies is to grab an internship.
Mm-hmm.
The sooner you do it, the better, because it's easier. Let's be honest. They look different. The recruiters will look different if you apply at the first year, at the second year, and the third year, because the new knowledge is different. And some people are like, oh, this is so hard. Probably there are some geniuses, going to those internships. No, it's not like this. There is lots of space. They really want to get those people in because they want to know you spread the brand. Because if you're in the internship, you go to the business and you can tell your friends, okay, I'm in this internship. This is really great. No toxic people.
Yeah, of course, sure. Yeah, that perfectly makes sense, because they're also interested in teaching you as you said, as fast as they can, as soon as they can. Let's put it like this.
They want to put you in the workplace, but also I really advise to go for the big corporations at the beginning, because it's usually a little bit easier to get into them, because startups and really dynamic, fast developing companies, they don't have time really, and there's resources because for an internship student there needs to be at least a mid or a junior or a senior that will teach him something. So you're taking time of the seniors to teach the new person.
Yeah.
So big corporations, they can afford it. They don't mind. But
small
when
startups,
it comes to smaller ones that are fast developing, this is a little bit different approach. And the problem with big corporations is that the pace is different. You become someone after 10 years of being in such organization. Which, if you have time, go for it. But for some people, and I was one of those person, this was way too slow.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Does that explain why you changed your job?
Yeah.
Okay, can you
I changed my job
it?
pretty frequently as of now. I've changed one actually 3 months ago, but how it started was that I got into internship, and it was actually a mandatory internship due to Politechnika Wrocławska. They made me apply to an internship, and actually this was great because I got some work experience while still studying, and it was like a hook for me to later get into a real job, because they were like, okay, Janek, you're doing pretty good. We want you after you finish your studies. This was great. And first year I was a business consultant, which, if you ask me what is it, I have no idea really. I mean, more or less, what do business consultants do? Everything. And I was doing this for half a year. I was like a front-end developer, whatever. I didn't like it because it was so spread out. I said, okay, I want to be more specific. So after half a year, I said, okay, this is not for me. I'm changing the job. And I really encourage everyone who feels the same way, don't be afraid to change jobs, especially in the beginning, because it's easier. It's just easier to get into junior positions than into mid positions. Of course, there is less junior positions, but it's just easier, let's be honest. So then I switched into more specific role, which was DevOps, which is development and operations connected together. I was working for half a year in a really big business, but as I said, it was a really big business. So it was really slow. Everything was really slow. When I got on board, so I was, my first month, I didn't have work for 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
I was sitting there and just waiting for anything to happen, which for me, it was really demotivating. And I bet for everyone, if you're okay with it, go for it. But this was for me, I was able to see how it feels working in such big company. And recently I changed to a startup company, which is coming into the second stage of investments.
Okay.
I have no idea what is it, you tell me. But I can see that they are much more dynamic and faster, and this is great for me because if you're a hard worker and if you like to prove yourself, those environments are much more rewarding. Okay, so you can really prove yourself, and also you can say, okay, I want to do this, maybe stay a little bit after hours, but they will appreciate this. And lots of work.
Oh, that's
work.
great.
That's great. I love it. I will be honestly, I'm in love with it. I'm really happy. I mean, it's a few weeks, so it's hard for me to
really
say
great.
anything. But there is basically no other juniors than me because I'm a junior. I changed also another specialization, and there is basically no juniors than me. And the problem is, you know, why they hired me, not someone who is a senior and mid?
Why?
Because there is no people on my position that wanted to join because they were so expensive. So I also really encourage people to go into specializations and like really deep dive and niche, like see what they like, and maybe for example, what are you're studying
Aerospace engineering.
so what would be like niche that you can go in, very specific?
Yeah, okay, let's think about that. Like potentially, I mean, of course there are like many fields, but let's say potentially someone can go into working with satellites, I guess, right? Someone can go into working with planes, for example, and again, planes, you have this division. You can work on electronics, you can work on software, you can work on like engines, right? Yeah.
So this is actually the more you go into the niche, the less people you will have to compete with. And that's what happened to me. I don't have much people to compete with. Nobody really wants to join the specialization. I know why, but I'm not gonna tell it here. So you can really, there is more offers on the table, especially because they are looking so much. And I think the problem is that they really need specialized people, because what is happening currently in software engineering is that we have lots of people who are changing fields, who are not so specialized, not so technical. Maybe they just have, you know, personality limitations toward the jobs. And we need really skilled people to govern them. And the same thing is with AI. That's why people always will have work, I think, and it's really hard to replace some high performance in the job, because someone still has to govern AI. Even if we make AI a worker, which I don't think is a great idea, because I think AI is a good tool, not a worker. You cannot replace someone. It's just a tool we can use, right?
Yeah.
To govern this. The problem is, someone will have to go over the AI and say AI is wrong, because AI can also be wrong because it learns from us, and people are wrong.
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that usually connects all of us, like what do all people have in common?
Of course, make mistakes.
Yeah, we all make mistakes. We are imperfect, and this is normal. You have to accept it, but there's always gonna be a space for someone who is supervising, who will say, okay, let's fix this mistake. So AI is not going to replace those people, but AI might replace people that do mundane work.
Okay, so the conclusion is do some specific work and be good at it.
Yes, and especially try connecting to specializations that are really hard to find. So, for example, how do you make sure that you don't get fired from your job? You do something that nobody else can do.
Yeah. It's as
right?
simple as that.
How can I replace you, right?
Yeah,
and if
sure.
you connect two fields that work great together and nobody can do them, you have a job.
That's quite good advice. Thank you.
So this is like really curious. The whole working in software development. Lots of people ask me, okay, Janek, or how do I get into it, or I wish I could get into it. Like, what is stopping you? What is stopping you from getting into software engineering? If I can tell from my experience, I have people who are QAs, so quality assurance people. I have one that was a teacher and now is a QA, and she's really doing a great job. So I think that if you're a nice person and if you're willing to learn and fail and learn from these failings, you can really work in IT. There is no problem with that.
Okay, yeah. I've heard that, like, I mean, that's quite obvious that more people can go into, let's say, IT comparing to, let's say, some science, like math, physics. Yeah, because in IT, basically, like, of course, there is, like, logic, and but you also get some feedback. Like in physics, if you're doing something, you need these let's say, imagination. You need to understand the processes, and not always you have this feedback. Some of the things are only happening in your head. You can only perform some, let's say, thought experiments. But in IT, you can really write a program and see the feedback.
That's true.
That's very good. Really,
You can
that's what I like.
You can fail and then learn from this fail.
Yeah,
This is great.
exactly.
That's what my mentor says. He always says, Janek, I want you to fail. I want you to fail fast, because then you will excel at learning. And this is a great advice. Also, I think why is IT good for especially someone who's trying to transition or get in from different fields? Because I have lots of friends who couldn't find a job in their respective field, and they said, okay, IT is the way to go. I think why IT is so good, because it has a big spectrum of different roles, and everyone can fit in, because we have the whole software development life cycle, which we do. We first, we have to define what the client wants. So we need to have someone who is speaking with the client, constantly connecting with them. Okay, what does you want? What do you want? And then he's working with an architect how to do it. So we have those people who need to have good communication skills.
Yeah, and at the same time, they are able to interpret what the person said to this, let's say, sort of technical language.
Yes, they have to be able to talk with the architect.
Yeah, sure.
So they get the requirements good. Then we have to build the code, of course. So we have to have someone who is able to produce the code. So kind of like think creatively, but also I think one of the biggest skills you can have in IT is how to Google things. If you have Googling skills, and you have, especially now, you can use ChatGPT well, you'll be successful. So we need to have the code, right? Then what is a good code? The good code is the code that has been tested. And this is a standard nowadays, and there is more and bigger need for testers. And testers is usually pretty easy to get in, because we have different types of testing, and usually the basic one is manual testing. So you get an instruction, follow these steps. Do you get the outcome that should be the result of this instruction? If not, what should be done? And usually testers, they shouldn't meddle in. They shouldn't look into the code, and this is because they can be biased.
Oh, okay.
So so this is actually a good division, that we have developers and testers, and then we have people who have to deploy this, because we have code, it's tested, but how do you ensure that it gets to the client? And it's an ongoing process, because we are not working in waterfall anymore. Waterfall is basically a technique when we are trying to go from one thing to the other without the repeating of the cycles. So it's basically like constructing a car. We do it from the beginning. So we have the base, then you add the engine, and you add everything, and you have a final product. This doesn't work in IT, and this is because the requirements of the clients usually change very rapidly. So this is how the agile terminology was born, when we are trying to to be more agile with the clients. We don't care about what was said before. We go to the client, what do you want to do now? Constantly trying to improve it.
This constant cycle. Wow, that's interesting.
And we have different parts of the cycle, and people have to feel this, And I am, for example, a person that has to ensure that the system is stable all the time, which sounds like fun, but I'm telling you, 2 a.m. at night, something's happening. I have to get up. I have to be here. Have
you had any experience like that? Okay.
Not yet, because we are not live yet. But I had experiences when I had to stay up at night. Okay, let's do this, because, for example, one of our environments is down. So I can say, okay, I will not care about this. We can do this tomorrow. But imagine I go tomorrow morning, and let's say I start a job at 10. Someone starts at 9, and it's like, what happened? Our environment is down. What's happening? So I'd rather spend this time now and try to repair it than later. And it's actually, the question is, do you like it? Do you like this job? Because you kind of like a superhero. But the problem is, okay, you're a superhero, you're fixing something, but nobody will know.
Yeah, sure. Just as many other works. Yeah,
definitely. So this is a really fun part of this working in IT, because you can really find a place for yourself. And this is what I did. I was a business consultant. I didn't enjoy it. Then I was a DevOps. I was like, okay, I didn't like the environment, because it's also really important, the environment. So I decided to switch the environment. and now I'm in a job that I really enjoy, and I hope I can, thrive and learn more.
Yeah, that's really great. I mean, yeah, of course. This whole process of finding a job, let's say, it's
Yes.
just you need to again make mistakes to understand what you like, and yeah, move towards it.
Yeah, definitely. And also there is this very interesting concept that there's basically three positions you can be in. You can be really satisfied with your job. You can be really dissatisfied with your job.
Mm-hmm.
And there is also the field, which is the worst option, where everything is okay, but the manager is, a little bit toxic, but I can handle him.
Okay, yeah.
Like, so everything is like,
Neutral.
in the middle of
Yeah,
something.
okay.
So you don't really enjoy, you don't get the satisfaction if you were really happy with this job, but you also don't have this incentive to change something when you're in a really bad environment. Because when you're really in a really environment, you want to change something. So you're like stuck in this status quo,
Mm-hmm.
which is really easy to get into, and it really kills your motivation. Because if things are bad, you really want to get out of this, right? If things are good, great, you have motivation to work more. But if you're stuck in this cycle of nothing changing, like everything being just okay, so you
No,
didn't
it's terrible.
It's really terrible. And this doesn't only apply to jobs. This applies to the whole life. And you can end up in a position when it's like, it's not bad, it's bearable, but it's also not super amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I advise you should either think, how can you repair it and make it super good, or how can you destroy it so you're in a position that you have to change something
Yeah.
in your life.
Interesting. You know what? Do you want to mention some other things, like how we met?
Sure, no problem. So we've met on a hike, right?
Yeah,
It
sure.
was a really great experience. I really like those hikes because I was kind of skeptical, I would say, because I was there because of my girlfriend.
Okay.
She kind of invited me. But I was really surprised because when you go to a hike and there is so many random people, and especially because hikes last some time, you really get to meet some different people. And what is the great part of this? There is some common ground, okay? We've met on a hike. So this means we at least enjoy hiking together.
Yeah, sure. Something in common.
Yeah. So some activity at least. So you meet more or less similar people. And I really advise everyone, if you like something, try to find a group of people who likes the same thing, and you can have great relationships. And this is one of the things that I usually also would advise people who are studying to look into. Don't focus on the grading and how good you're doing, because at the end of the day, what you're gonna put your grade into LinkedIn, it looks silly, let's be honest. But if you end up with having like great friends, great relationships that last throughout after the universities, I have one friend like this.
Mhm.
Only one, unfortunately. But he's a great friend because he's working in a very similar field than me, and we can always compare because we are young, right? I'm young.
Mhm.
I don't know what is the standard of the industry. So I can go to him. I say, I'm making this and you're making this. Okay. I'm working in this environment. What is your environment? How is your development stack and everything like this? So we can talk a lot about the details. So I really advise people to like focus on the relationships.
Yeah,
This
sure.
is the great part of the universities. Go out, have some fun. You will miss it later when you're in a job. I'm telling you this. I'm missing this sometimes.
Yeah.
And I can see people who are younger, who are older than me, like even 40, and they're just like, oh, those were good
No,
times.
I wish I had done something. Mhm.
Yes, because
Yeah.
at the end of the life, you never say, oh, I wish I didn't go to Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
You say, I wish I went to Puerto Rico, right?
Mhm.
So you're only sad about the parts you didn't do.
Yeah.
So go for it.
Yeah,
Don't be
let's
scared.
let's talk a little bit more about that. So, what can students do at the university? Probably join some scientific clubs, for example,
Yes,
right?
Yes, I was never interested in this. I will be honest with you. When I was studying, I was like, okay, studying is done. I'm gonna play some video games. And after the studies, I was like, man, I would do so many things differently. Especially the big part is finding a study group, or as you said, a club, which is like something that you really enjoy. If you can get into this, you will find people who are similar minded to you, and you will have a great time. And I will really advise for people to look into it. If you don't find something like this, then I really advise to look into for an internship and job, because it also can help you meet some more people, because this is like, I think, the biggest benefit of going to university. You meet great people.
That's true. And especially again, like now that we have so many opportunities, like again, internships and probably some clubs, like so many people, I mean, I talked to some people who are in some clubs, and there are such clubs as, I'm not sure, like, yeah, it is AKL, which means like Akademicki Klub Lotniczy. Yeah, it is like a club for avionics, and they are participating in some competitions. They go to the US, to some other countries, and they just again compete with some other national teams, which is great. And occasionally they win some even some medals. So that's great.
That's great. That's
yeah, some other clubs. So again, if you're just listening to that and you are hesitant whether to do that or not, just try doing that. That's important.
Definitely. I had a friend who was a big car fan, motorsports, right? And he joined a PWR racing team, and he had a blast. I mean, he was working a lot, okay? And the problem was kind of like I think the PWR racing team, they tried to transition from being a club or a university to kind of like a business.
Okay.
And it started getting a little bit political. I'm not gonna get into details because,
Yeah, sure.
And actually, this was like the collapse of what he said. This was the collapse of the PWR racing team, because some people decided to get political, and you need people with great communication skills, but you also need technical people to build this, especially something like a bolide, right?
Yeah.
Racing bolide. So the people who are really technical, they left, and also they kind of like left because they ended their studies, they moved on with their life, they get great offers. And what I've heard, like for example, in PWR racing team, there are people that have been hired to Ferrari,
I've
to
heard
Skoda,
this story.
yeah. So it's a great way to, if you're really into the field and if you're really giving your best, you can get recognized. So this is like really great way why you should go into clubs, because you can also find some great opportunities there.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good. Again, but still, as you said, we're still young, so we can do a lot of things. Like
Definitely.
Yeah, and especially, you know what? Just one more thing, just to add to the hikes. I never miss a chance to talk how much I like mountains. That's really great that we have some here. Of course, they're not that high.
Yeah.
Let's say they're more like, there are some like foothills, some mountains, but I really enjoy that. Probably it is connected to the fact that in Belarus we don't have mountains. Probably it is the consequence, but still, I don't know. I just like it so much. So that's really good. Just do whatever you like, just do it. Again, like, do you want to, if you want to go on a hike, just do that. Invite some friends, or probably join another hiking group. If you want to join a club, just, again, do that.
Don't hesitate, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because you will miss those opportunities. An opportunity doesn't look like an opportunity at the beginning.
Yeah,
it only looks like an opportunity when it's over. So that's the big problem with opportunities. Definitely, go for things like this. Enjoy yourself. Communicate with people. We are social creatures after all. We need those contacts.
We are.
Definitely.
And I'm so happy again that, that we can meet different people, like from different countries, like we are, right?
Yes.
We're from different countries, but still we found this, let's say, common language. It's quite paradoxical that it is English, but still, I mean, we still can communicate. We enjoy doing that, so that's really great. And but also that that's a good thing, because we can discuss some differences, some similarities, and apparently there are some, because guess what? Like, Belarus and Poland are close to each other, so of course, if these countries are neighboring countries, there are some similarities, and of course, some differences. And just remember this hike where we talked about history, about some traditions and some things that are common in our countries and that are different. So I don't know, do you have something that, okay, let me ask you this. What would you say is sort of, let's say, unusual in Polish culture?
unusual in Polish culture, but I notice it in, for example, more Eastern countries. Right?
Okay, what is it?
I have really no idea.
Okay, I see.
I'm trying to think about something. I'm always really surprised because I always think of like Eastern countries. They have like
Oh,
one.
by the way, you know what? You started to talk about Eastern countries, and do you consider Poland as an Eastern country?
That's like, I think this is the problem with Poland. Like, it's not so much in the West. We are in the European Union and we have the benefits of being in the European Union, but we are not so up with them. Then on the other hand, you look at the Eastern countries and you're like, okay, maybe we are not also that. And I always try to say, okay, Poland is the center of Europe, so we are a central country,
Okay.
which is in the middle of nowhere. So we are basically, we're not Eastern, we're not Western, we're just in the central, which is fun part of it. I can also say, oh, Poland is a Baltic country, which is also not really.
No, of course not.
Poland is really like in a unique space, let's say.
That's so funny because you know what? Actually, the funny part is that I don't even know how to say that, not to disappoint you. But so many countries have these. So many countries claim that they are in the center of Europe. In Belarus, we have this sort of like center of Europe. I believe in Lithuania, they also claim that they are the center of Europe, and I guess in Ukraine they also say that. So I mean, that's quite funny that countries just like doing that.
Okay, I'm pretty sure Russia is not saying this is in Central Europe, but yeah, that's actually a pretty nice perspective. I always remember. When I was like my first trips to like Belarus and like Ukraine.
Oh, I mean you've been to Belarus?
Yeah, I had opportunity to when I was really young, and I looked into this and I was like, is it really much different than in Poland when you look at villages? Of course, cities are cities, right? Every city is different, but if you look at the like suburbs area, like villages, it wasn't really that much different. Maybe it's much different than like Balkans countries because they are just a little bit different.
Maybe
the infrastructure is not there, let's say. But this was like the biggest difference to me. Like, are we really that different? And then one thing that I always surprises me, I was like, Ukrainian people, Belarus people, and Russian people, I thought they speak more or less, very similar language. But the other day I tried to hit up my Ukrainian friend or Russian friend with "Как ваше добро?"
Okay.
This is something I asked in Belarus, right?
I mean, like, it is a little bit different. Like, what did you want to ask?
How are you doing?
It is like, I mean, in which language?
In Belarus.
In Belarusian, it is "Jak маешься," for example, which is quite similar to Polish, right? Jak się masz. Or in Belarusian, we also can say "Jak sprawy."
Jak sprawy, tak.
Yeah.
Jak są sprawy? Też możemy sobie powiedzieć. Jak się masz.
Yeah.
Też jest na przykład. Very also interesting part lately was that I've met, I was in a party which was like multinational, let's say, lots of cultures. And I remember there was one lady and she had like, I thought, oh, she's Russian. She has a very strong Russian accent. I was like, is Russian really that similar with Ukrainian? And she was like, why you ask me? I'm from Montenegro.
Okay.
So I was really surprised.
Yeah, but that's really interesting because again, we have there are some Slavic countries in the south, of course, like Serbia.
They have huge influx of Russian culture, right?
Probably. Yeah, I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a specialist here.
Yeah.
I just know that like Bulgaria, Serbia, some like, I'm not sure basically like Bulgaria, Serbia, and Montenegro, they also speak, of course, like Slavic languages, and these languages are more similar to Russian, probably. Again, that's hard to say because the other day I tried to listen to some, let's say, Bulgarian news. It was quite difficult to understand, so I cannot tell.
Always funny when I meet with someone from Hungary. And we have this saying in Poland that Polish and Hungarians are always ready to fight and always ready to drink together.
Okay.
But the language difference is actually huge right now.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what they are
Of course,
saying.
because I can share some knowledge here, shed some light on this question, because actually, like, Hungarians are their position is, it's kind of terrible, because they are surrounded by some countries, like some German-speaking countries, like one country, like Austria. They also are neighbors with Slovakia, which is a Slavic country. They also have Romania, and they are not similar to any of these countries. That's the problem, because they are separate. They are from the separate group, which is related actually to some people of Finland. That's the funny part. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So actually, during the migration of different tribes and all the things, at some point they just divided into two groups, and one went north and one went south. So they're just this one island in Europe, just one of a kind. They don't have any similar, let's say, nations around them, which is quite unique, right? So they're just on their own. Actually, I talked the other day to one person from Hungary. I mean, I went to Hungary recently. So I talked to one person there, and actually he complained about that. He said, oh, you're so lucky, you're from Belarus, it is easy for you to learn Polish. Imagine us learning some other languages, just some other languages of the countries around us. So yeah, it's quite difficult for them, especially because these languages, it is I don't know, I'd say for me it is difficult to learn. Not that I don't want to learn it or something. No, probably one day I will, but it was quite difficult for me to catch some words and something like that, and also the pronunciation. Oh yeah, by the way, there is one funny fact that I like to tell, because for me it was a surprise that they actually don't call themselves Hungarians, or for example, in Slavic languages we call them Vengry. In Belarusian, in Polish it is
Vengry.
Yeah, exactly. So, but of course, some other Western countries call them Hungary, which is quite similar. Sounds like Vengria, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that they don't call themselves this way. I mean, they don't even know where it came from. They just call themselves. Okay, I'm really trying to pronounce that right, so don't be judgmental here. They call themselves Magyar, which, yeah, actually that's another interesting thing, because it is spelled as Magyar, right? But when they are saying g or g, I'm not sure, they pronounce that a little bit like d. So it is really strange. It is for example, their country, its name is Magyarország, which Magyarország. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Anyway, it is something like that.
This is really interesting. Where
It is.
this name Vengria originated from?
I don't know.
From what I know, that also Turkish people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably I know where it originated. Some Slavic people, for example, probably some Slavic people invented the name Немцы. Yeah, so probably someone called them, oh, okay, these Vengry, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Let's call them this way.
Yeah.
Do you know, by the way, do you know where did the name Niemcy originate from?
Actually, I've heard a couple of theories, and one theory says that Niemcy originated from, do you have this word in Polish, niemy, who is unable to speak?
Yes.
So someone told me this theory that probably some Slavic people heard Germans speaking, and they were okay, I cannot understand that. They're just people that cannot speak, so let's call them Niemcy, because they're niemy, right?
You cannot communicate with them, right?
Yeah, sure.
The difference is really big between Poland and Germany, but I think
of course, because these are just in this world there are some let's say not barriers, but some places where the cultures meet. So basically, like Poland is, the western frontier of these,
Yes.
let's say, Slavic countries. Yeah, and Germany is the eastern. Yeah,
we adopted a lot from German countries. I mean, this is like one of the countries to adopt, right? Their culture and stuff like this. But Niemcy is really, Germany is really an interesting country because they are actually, when you look at them, they are really different than Polish people. We adopted some things over the years because we bordered them, right? Which is, fun fact from history, always, bordering the Germany. Good luck with that.
Yeah, of course, sure.
Yeah, and Poland also, I think, always has been in like this middle of nowhere.
You're saying Poland is, Belarus is quite
okay.
No, maybe I don't claim I don't claim anything, but let's say this region is really like a hot region in this respect. Definitely. That like every war just destroys our country.
Yes, we are in the middle.
Unfortunate.
In the middle of always the battlefield, right?
Yeah,
this is like really this guy.
And you mentioned something before we recorded this podcast. You just mentioned Warsaw, right? It was really destroyed, like completely to the ground during the Second World War. And you said that you're impressed by how they built it, right?
How they rebuild it over the time, because right now when you go to Warsaw, you can see like it's really thriving city, right?
Yeah.
But also one funny fact about Polish architecture is that usually when you go to like old town, you have like those buildings, those architecture, they are trying to be like, 17th, 18th century, which most of it was destroyed after Second World War. So they're just trying to pretend they are from 17th century. Which is fun part about architecture. I mean, this really, like, when you go to Polish, most of the ryneks in like big cities like Krakow, Wrocław, usually can see the similarities in buildings. But Krakow is really great. Have you been to Krakow?
Yeah. A couple of times.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, sure, of course. They say that it's the cultural capital of Poland.
Yes, it has been. It was the capital before Warsaw, and why it was very cultural was because when Poland was divided into by Germany, Russia, and Austria, actually. The Krakow was in a part of Austria, and Austria was really freedom based. They allow us to have our own culture. They weren't trying to Russify or Germanize. So it was really thriving at the time, especially in terms of culture, and it's still this beautiful city with great culture.
Yeah, I've heard that Austria was, let's say, sort of the least evil among the three of them. Yeah, and just a small correction, it was Prussia.
Prussia, that's true. Yeah. That's true. I always take Germany
because Germany was later united.
Yeah, that's true. But I always we still have this distinction between Poland A and Poland B. That's how we call it.
Okay.
So we have a Poland A and we have a Poland B, and Poland A is like what was left over after Prussia, and Poland B what was left over after Russia. So the problem is that there is still a gap between those two regions, and we can see usually mostly the gap in thinking terms. It's the same with Germany right now. Germany unified, and there's also they have problems between one front and the other, and actually from what I know, the eastern part of Germany is more supporting of Russia in this war, which is in the current effort, because and mostly lots of people in the Germany they protest against the war to turn it far, because they are against the violence, but history has showed us that being complementary with the attacker is never good.
No,
I mean, Germany
not.
was one of those examples, right? So this is really sad part that we need to pay attention to it, because we cannot give the aggressors what they want.
That's so interesting that after these all these years there is still the division, right?
And it's a huge division.
By the way, you've mentioned these Poland A and Poland B, and I've heard something that some people actually, I mean, I'm not sure if this generation complains about that, like
Mhm.
our generation or some generations older. But I've heard that some like elderly people, they from Wroclaw, who are like originally from Wroclaw, they sometimes complain about some people who were moved from the east to Wroclaw. Is that
Definitely.
correct? Can you?
Definitely.
Uh-huh.
Lots of people moving and they have a different approach, okay? Because
Yeah, but I'm talking about like because after the Second World War, when the Germans were sort of, let's say, evacuated from Wroclaw, they needed to move someone, like to move some other Polish people. So they took some people from, let's say, I believe it is Podlaskie Voivodstvo, right? So like around Białystok. They took some people and they just, offered them to move to Wroclaw.
Yeah,
And some
because
people moved,
also
yeah.
back in the day, they were part of the, before, World War II, they were, for example,
Yeah.
part of the Polish country, and now they are left in Russia, so they have to move to the Polish. And there was a place like Wrocław, which was left out after Germany, so they have to move. Lviv was also a great example of it. So the professors from Lviv University had to move to Wrocław University to still be in Polish country, to still teach Polish students.
By the way, we should probably mention that our university, which is Politechnika Wrocławska, also has its roots in like Politechnika Lwówska. So yeah, many professors came here and just started this university. So that's interesting. But actually, with Lviv or Lviv in Ukrainian, it is a little bit tricky. If you want to, we can talk about that, and
Yeah,
I
I'm actually
can present
interested.
some arguments here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the problem with this city is, of course, it is close to the Polish border, and usually it happens, all the time. Every country claims that this territory near the border is there. Okay, probably not every country, like Germany doesn't have any claims now, of course. But many countries do. Many countries say that, okay, historically speaking, that was our territory, but of course now it is not our. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, there was the situation that, back in the day it was 1569, if I'm not mistaken. The problem was that Moscow Duchy started the war against the Great Duchy of Lithuania, and the problem was that, unfortunately, I'm saying unfortunately because like Belarus was the part of the Great Duchy of Lithuania. Unfortunately for us, it didn't went well. The Moscovians managed to siege some cities, and so we just wanted some help, and we asked the Polish crown if they could help us. Instead, they said that, of course, sure. But I mean, there are some nuances. You become a part of us, and then we can help you, which was not great. And of course, some delegates were not happy with that, so they went back. And Poland occupied they divided to use this moment that, the Great Duchy of Lithuania is weak now, so let's just occupy this western part of Ukraine till the Dnieper River. So that's exactly what they did. So they occupied this right side of the Dnieper. So basically, that's when it started. And after that time, of course, later, like they said, okay, let's have this union. They presented some other terms, and we agreed to these terms, and it was like Unia Lubelska. So after that, like the Polish crown and the Great Duchy of Lithuania became this Rzeczpospolita Obojgu Narodów, which was quite good. I mean, huge country. But anyway, the Polish presence was there in the western part of Ukraine, and of course, as it in history, it is always this thing that if two nations live close to each other, and if one nation is in charge of another one, that doesn't, end well usually. So of course, like during the Second World War, there were such incidents as Rzeszów-Wołyńska, where many Polish people were murdered, and so such things were in history, and now it's kind of hard to say. If you look at some charts, let me actually check it if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's really hard to speak about what was good in the past because it just happened. The same with Polish uprisings. I can tell you that maybe one of Polish uprisings was successful, and one that had tremendous consequences was the Warsaw uprising. And the problem was that the Warsaw was destroyed after the uprising. And some people say, okay, they should not have fought for this. But can you tell someone who was fighting in this? Yeah. Okay, you lost your friends. It was useless. It was worthless. You fighting for this? Can you come up to them and say, okay, you're fighting for your country? It was useless.
Of course not. I mean, yeah.
How
do you say that?
Yeah, and the fact is, they didn't thought about the consequences. They really thought they gonna win.
Yeah, but the problem is that we don't know what would have happened otherwise. That's the problem.
That's a great question. Yeah. Really. I mean, when Poland and Lithuania, let's say, were together, okay, were working as a one entity. They also, I think, they incorporated the Jagiellonian dynasty, right, and also the elective monarchy after, which was actually the, let's say, what was the driving force for the Commonwealth lose of power.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Eventually, of course, yeah, it went bad for this country, this union, because again, yeah, they started to make such decisions as I believe that one of the decisions was that, for example, they had this what we call Sejm, I guess in Polish it's Sejm, right? So they had it, and they had this rule of liberum veto, which means that one person could, just could say no to one decision, and okay,
the whole thing was over. Yeah, it was actually a great incentive, because it would mean if, for example, every minister, let's say, of the Sejm was bought up by, for example, Prussian or Russian.
Yeah.
One person could just say, okay, liberum veto, we're not going with this. But it was used in a whole different direction.
But actually it was used by Russians as well. They also bought some delegates.
Yes.
So that's the problem, and also that's the problem with democracy.
Yes.
In some sense, because you can say, okay, look how democratic it was, that only one person could sabotage the whole decision making.
Exactly. Sabotage. That's a great way to use it.
Of course, it was sabotaging in my opinion.
Yeah, that's how kind of like the whole the growth of Commonwealth was stunted, because we could not perform any political reforms back then. And actually, the really fun consequence of this was like the first constitution of Poland, which we say, okay, this was the second constitution in the whole world, in the USA. Yeah. After 2 years of the constitution, Poland is gone from the map, actually. That's the sad part. And how they performed it, because they knew that it's liberum veto. And how do you enforce a constitution? So what they did, it was actually the time frame. So it was actually, I think, on the 1st of May. Okay. And 1st of May was actually a kind of like a celebration.
Okay, yeah.
And they decided to make Sejm on the 3rd day of the Sejm. So 3rd day of May. So what happened was that some people who were partying still on the 1st May couldn't get to the Sejm. And it just happened that nobody who was one of those liberum veto guys saying liberum veto to every reform, they were not present there, so they went with the constitution.
Okay. So really democratic decision.
yes. Let's be honest, but it didn't really change anything. But Poland's enough to say, one of the first constitutions in Europe.
By the way, probably I found this chart. Just check this out. So that was Poland during this period when it had Lviv, right?
Wow.
So as you can see, there are many people who spoke Ukrainian in this part, and more than 70%. So what do you say to that? I mean, okay, let let me be a little bit more careful here, because of
Yes.
course not many people like to hear this information, which were
No, I don't have a problem with that.
no.
I think the
I'm
biggest
not
problem
talking,
is
no. I'm not talking about you, because of course
Yeah, sure.
we can discuss that you're like you understand these facts, and that's totally okay. But I'm talking about some people who potentially, who are Polish, who listen to this podcast, and now all of a sudden I'm saying that no, like Lviv or Lviv in Ukrainian is a Ukrainian city,
Yeah.
and they can take it, the wrong way.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm saying that there was, of course, there was this huge contribution to the history of this city made by Polish people who lived there, who were born there, whose parents were, and probably grandparents were born there, of course, no question. But how it was done, again, after this occupation in 1569, right? Of course, yeah, I mean, huge time span, like a couple of centuries. That's a huge time span, but the problem is that still the majority of the population in this area was Ukrainian, and of course that was just like gunpowder, which just waits to be
to
lit
blow
up,
and
yeah, and
sometimes like a
to
ticking
blow
bomb,
up,
right?
yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, this is funny because you caught me today. I was talking about Lviv and I said Lviv, which, let's be honest, now it's Lviv. But the same thing, probably you can catch some German people talking about Wrocław and saying Breslau.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think the real underlying problem behind all of this is the peace treaties. After World War II and World War II. World War One, of course, and World War II. The problem for World War One was that the peace treaty was so bad that it led basically to the World War II, right?
Yeah.
But I think that also this is actually also one thing I'm interested in. We have something in Poland which is called Pomerania, which was basically there is like a distinct culture living in Poland, and they are really similar to German people. They like basically have their own language.
Wow.
They have like own culture, like very different culture, on this own tradition, and they are really different. And they are called in Pomeranians. They're also called Kashuby, Kashubian people. Do you have something like this in Belarus, where you have like totally different culture? Or, like it's just
no,
much
I'd say
different?
Belarus is quite monolithic in this sense, because again we were divided so many times that what is left now from Belarus is it's pretty much only the part where like Belarusians live. Although we have one group which is quite, I don't want to say quite different, because now probably the difference is not that obvious, but in the previous years, let's say in the previous decades, it was more apparent. There is this group, Poleshuki. These are people who lived in this region called Polessia. So this region is to the south of of Minsk, like it's in the south. So yeah, we had this group, and but the reason why they are different was because they lived in this let's say basically on the like swamp, yeah. So really they had these islands where they lived, yeah. So it was like surrounded by the forest, and I mean they had rivers there, like Dnipro, or Dnipro river there, and also some other small rivers which flow into Dnipro. So yeah, they were just separated. It is super interesting. I mean, they had some techniques how to, for example, raise cattle. They would first of all they would put a horse on a boat, then they would, or not a horse, let's say some cows or whatever, they would go to another island, put them there, and just leave them there for the whole summer, and then come and bring back, because again, no predators on these small islands. Cows can grow there, cows, pigs, whatever, goats.
Wow.
So yeah, it was super interesting, and also there are some photos from that period. Some American lady, she went there in the 30s. Can you imagine that? She went to study this like region, which is quite interesting, and she took some photos. So that's quite interesting. Like these people are really, sort of different a little bit from Belarusians, but still they speak they speak also like, or spoke, yeah, because again, like in Belarus, surprise, surprise, but unfortunately the language problem is quite acute, especially now, because most of the people in Belarus speak Russian, which is due to some things like, first of all, of course, like the Russian Empire. With Poland, they gave up. They tried, but they pretty much gave up. They understood that it is quite, impossible to change the Polish people.
Poland was also much farther from the
Yeah,
Moscow,
yeah, of
right?
course,
So-
and also I guess the language is played a huge role here, because in Polish, Polish is the Western Slavic language, which is good for you because they couldn't change you, since you have it different. I mean, although let's say, okay, Belarusian is similar to Polish in this respect, that like phonetically speaking, because we have basically the same like sounds, but like the grammar is different, and also the stress is different. That's an important part, because in Polish you have this constant stress, like you have the stress on the second syllable, like from the end, and it doesn't change, like in every word, basically like in 99% of the words it is the same. But in Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian, in Bulgarian as well, in Serbian as well, the stress is like in English. You stress different vowels, and probably it was a little bit easier for them to change, Ukrainians, Belarusians, to force them to learn Russian. And of course, after the Russian Empire, it was the Soviet Union, which was also a terrible force to destroy culture and language. And but I mean, the troubles didn't end then, because then we had one person, Lukashenko, who changed the constitution, and he said that, okay, when he became the president, he was in charge like for 2 years, and then he decided that, okay, enough power, I can now make some changes. Okay, so he changed our flag, our coat of arms. And also he said that, okay, from now on, like two official languages, not only Belarusian, but also Belarusian and Russian. Can you imagine that for some people who were born in the Soviet Union, right? And now all of a sudden someone offers them an easy path, like, okay, we don't have to improve our Belarusian. Let's just, good old Russian,
Stick
right?
with the Russian, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So yeah. For now, it's really a problem. So yeah, but I'm happy. I'm happy that I speak Belarusian. That I had my studies in Belarusian. So
That's great, really.
Yeah.
How is your Russian? You have to learn, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was born with. I learned it from my, basically from my childhood. So that's unfortunate, but I mean, I have to admit that I had to learn Belarusian. So yeah. That's the way it is.
As a Belarusian person, you had to learn your
Yes. I mean, it wasn't something new, because of course my parents read some books in Belarusian when I was a kid. So, but it wasn't like that. We didn't speak Belarusian in our family. Like, we spoke Russian. So yeah, something like that.
This is really amazing, and this is one of the parts I love when I talk with people from different countries, because this is a perspective I didn't know.
Yeah, now you know.
Yeah, this is like really different.
It is. Yeah, but we'll see. That's I still, of course, I still have. I'm an optimist, so I still have hope that we will. Some time in the future it will change, because again, I believe that. Everything, goes back to the beginning, in this sense that history, puts everything in place.
Yeah.
So if something has the power to survive and to persevere, it will.
Yeah.
If not, then it will fail. And I believe that Belarusian culture is able to survive.
That's a really good kind of like way of thinking, because it also was pretty similar with Poland, right? Poland disappeared from the maps for 123 years. Yeah. And
still
here.
Now you have your country. That's
yes.
great.
Yes, and now we have Belarus also. We had a huge Soviet Union, and now we have lots of different countries like Ukraine, Belarus, also I think Georgia.
Yeah, Kazakhstan as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not lots of them because they were just different.
Yeah. But still, again, what we can do is just contribute something to that. And actually, in a short time, I plan to record some like limited series in Belarusian.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
yeah, they're probably we'll add some subtitles in Polish and English.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll talk about a little bit about culture, history, language.
That would be nice because I would like to also listen to what's the difference in languages.
Yeah,
That
sure.
would be nice
And
to investigate.
I'm just curious whether you will be able to, understand, and
I'm
probably you
also
will
curious.
be. Yeah.
I'm also
Because
curious.
there are some words which are quite similar. When I started learning Polish, sometimes if I didn't know the word, I would use Belarusian one just to check if that fits. And
Is it okay?
many times it was working. Like again, there are so many examples. Like I don't know. Let's say chamu. Can you guess what it is?
Czemu?
Chamu.
Czemu? Oh, of course. I have problems
What
with
else?
it. Because,
Szkarpetki.
of course, that's an easy one. Skarpetki, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's so similar. I also, when I remember when I went with my parents to Czech, my parents communicated with Czech people in Polish, and the Czech people were responding in Czech, right? Because Czech and Polish are really similar. Nowadays, not that much. And for us, everything that is said in Czech is really funny because it's like saying really sweet things in Poland, like kakaowy chlebiciek. It just sounds funny for us, right? And because they were really similar languages before.
Speaking of the languages, I just, that reminded me of another thing, such like false friends of the, what is it called? I guess false friends of the translator, I guess. Like, fałszywy przyjaciele tłumacza. Anyway, these are such words which sound similar in two languages, but which have different meaning, which is terrible when you try to learn, another language which is sort of related to your language. Because I can give you another example. We have the word napełna. Can you guess what it is?
Na pewno.
Okay. And here's the funny part, because napełna in Belarusian means it's kind of the same as chyba, which means like probably, maybe, something like that.
That's
and in
totally
Polish,
different,
that means yes, for sure, certainly. So whenever someone would ask me at first, like I had this preliminary course before my studies where I had to learn like Polish, math in Polish, physics in Polish, some other subjects in Polish. So whenever the teacher would say like, do you, like, just a moment, is everything, like, do you understand everything? We would say, na pewno. And we were like, yeah, probably. And he would, understand it as, yes, we understand it, great.
They left you great.
And after our tests, he would ask, like, why didn't you ask? We said, okay, yeah, we said, like, na pewno. But we meant na pewno.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's really
what else? There was another word today I was thinking about sound. Oh, yeah. We have this word, вероятность.
Вероятность?
Yeah, вероятность.
Yeah, someone is trustworthy, for example. Вероятный.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
that sounds similar, but it turns out, okay, here's the meaning is, okay, let's say slightly different. So it's not that dramatic as with napełna and na pewno. So here it is, for example, вероятность in Belarusian means probability. So it is like prawdopodobieństwo instead of вероятность. So that's quite funny.
What is the word that you describe someone's name? Like, how can you ask for someone's name? Because I know, for example, in Russian, you ask, как вас зовут?
Yes.
Which is zawód in Polish means...
Oh, yeah, okay. But here's the difference, because in Polish, again, the stress, because so many problems come with it, because like in Polish, again, like zawód, right? But in Russian it is zawód.
Zawód.
Yeah, so it's not like zawód, it's zawód. It is, first of all, it's not a noun, it's a verb, and it comes from звать. And звать means wołać, which means to call someone.
Jak się zwiesz? You can say this in Polish.
Oh, okay, you have
What's your name? Yes. Jak się zwiesz?
Come again. I mean,
jak się nazywasz, a jak się zwiesz też jest.
Are you serious?
It's used sometimes. Jak się
wow.
zwiesz.
Okay.
You can use it. You can use it.
Okay. Now you see the difference, and now you understand where it comes from, right?
Yeah.
Как тебя зовут, which means
yeah.
Jak się zwiesz.
Yeah. Jak się zwiesz.
Okay. Yeah. What else? Another word that I heard is difficult for the Polish people is krawat.
Krawat.
Because you think of krawat. But it's not. I mean, krawat is something that you lie on. It is your bed. Yeah, krawat.
Or maybe you have something. It's krajanka? I don't know. I'm
That's
not sure if it's the same. But yeah.
I cannot help you here. I don't know that much of Polish. But still, yeah, there are such words. But again, like a lot of things come from stress, I guess. What else? Phonetically speaking, again, as I mentioned. Oh yeah, wow. Phonetically speaking, by the way, you have such letters as this A with this, let's say.
L.
Yeah. But I wasn't sure how to call this. You know, this thing, like this hook or whatever. Do you say do you say as like tail, like ogonek?
Yeah,
okay.
Ogonek. Yeah. That's actually how we describe it.
Yeah. You have this a little bit, strange vowels, because at least to me it sounds like something, I don't know, I would say something borrowed from French or something like that.
It may be actually. It may be actually. I mean, the funny thing about Polish language is that it's unnecessarily difficult sometimes, really, because we have those but you basically never say them.
Yeah,
sometimes because you sound fast, funny, like
of course,
like whatever, like Hoptown, like if you make this an accent, people are like, what's wrong with him, right?
You're not on the railway station. I mean, because that's the only place where you can hear it.
And the same with our grammar, orthographia. We have big problems with it because we have the same sounds.
For example,
for
Z.
Yes, but you can write them many different ways. I mean, many different ways. Many different ways.
But you know what? Actually, that's funny. But here comes like, for me, it's easier to write it correctly because I compare it with other Slavic languages. And like, for example, in Belarusian and in Russian, and I bet in Ukrainian too, you can compare it. Like, for example, you have this word. Rzeka, right? And you write it as RZ, then E and the rest. So the reason why it is RZ and not Z with this dot over it is because, like, in Russian it sounds reka. So whenever you can change it to this soft R sound in Russian, you need to write in Polish RZ. And whenever in Russian it is zh, you need to write this Z with the dot.
Wow, so actually orthography and grammar is easier for you because...
Probably. But the only thing is because I can compare it to, to some other Slavic words. So that's probably the only reason. And also, another one, U and O with this line. The same thing, like where you can change it to O in Russian, it is O with this line. Whenever it's U in Russian, Belarusian, or Ukrainian, you write U in Polish.
But it's also sometimes similar in Polish. For example, if we have, it's hard for me to give an example.
When it changed.
When it changes, you go back to the original. What was the original? But actually, you go even back to the original, back to the future, kind of. This is really interesting.
It is. But still, but I mean. Yeah, of course. I've heard that Polish is one of the languages which is probably one of the hardest. I guess I bet it's one of the hardest Slavic languages, and probably one of the hardest overall. I don't know, like
Mhm.
probably it's not top 10, but
I've heard it's top 2 actually.
oh really?
Well,
But
so,
I mean,
like for me,
I guess
I mean,
this
no,
list
but
was
I'm Polish,
made,
so
but
I can be like, oh, I know the top 2 language
yeah,
in the world
but
that has it.
I mean, come on, I don't think it's top 2. I don't know. Probably this list was made by another Polish guy
Yeah,
who wants
definitely.
to think that he knows.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with Polish is that everything changes on the context. So if I talk about you, if I talk about me,
Yeah.
I have to change basically every word in this sentence.
Yeah,
And
probably.
this is really hard for someone who is coming, and that's also it's really easy to distinguish someone who is not originating from Polish because he just speaks in a different way.
Okay. What exactly do you mean? So they try
for example,
to use...
they don't change the verbs.
Oh,
So
okay.
they say ja pić woda,
Okay, yeah.
for example, because in English you don't change
Yeah,
the verbs
sure,
basically,
for
right?
sure. Uh-huh.
So it's easier for them. And there's of course the accent.
Yeah, the
plays a
accent
huge
is
right,
of
as
course.
always. But I think those are the main ones. Like,
But you see, like in other Slavic languages, you also change some forms, and especially like, for example, the form of this verb to be is also different in Bulgarian, for example, because they also have pretty much the same system as you have here. Like jestem, jestes, and so on. So in Bulgarian, it is also this way. At least in the present tense. I'm not sure about
so
other.
Maybe that's why, for example, for you, Polish is not in the top 10 of hardest
Yeah, probably, because I can compare it
but
to
someone,
the
let's
different
say,
Slavic languages. Yeah.
someone from Spain.
Maybe.
Good luck.
Yeah, of course. Someone described Polish as the language which sounds like a broken radio.
Yes. Yeah, just...
Of course.
I also had this, yeah.
That's interesting. And actually, that's interesting for me how some other languages sound from your perspective. And also, like, I don't know, the stress is... the stress, I mean, probably you think that I'm too focused on the stresses, but that's actually important.
This is really important.
Yeah, and I'm just... I don't know. I'll never understand how you hear, for example, Belarusian or Ukrainian or Russian. Yeah, but it's interesting.
Definitely, you always can recognize someone who is from Belarus or Ukrainian because they have the W sound is usually much stronger.
Okay.
And they just have like this different, like much stronger approach to those vowels. But from what I know, the Polish people, like, they don't have problems speaking in English, for example, learning English, but you can hear if someone is speaking English and he's Polish because he also
but I
puts
mean
the accent
some other countries as well. I mean, like, strong Russian accent, I guess, is quite strong. Yeah, like, basically, but that's normal. I mean, of course, people learn languages and
but also from this also comes the question, like, how easy is to understand someone English. And for example, for me, sometimes to understand someone's Russian English or German English is really fun for me to listen.
It is.
Especially French English. I love it. So for example, I've heard why lots of people in Poland find job in the UK or USA markets because it's easy to understand our accents.
Not bad. Good for you. Yeah.
Definitely good for us.
Sure.
Yeah, but I also heard because of this, lots of for example, Polish people working in IT start to, really like, okay, I don't want to be paid like other people in this area. I want to be paid like you are paid.
Okay.
And this is actually happening. I was told this by my manager. You know why I don't have more people than you who are Polish? Because they want much more money. So and then this is also a funny distinction. For example, in my business, most of the people that are communicators and or working in finances, like project management and stuff like this, they are English. But everyone who is from tech, Greek people, Turkish people, Serbia, Macedonia, Polish people, and the answer is really easy: money.
Oh, okay.
Money difference, because I get paid UK, and someone in UK getting my pay is like, it's really hard for me to live, and I'm like, okay, I'm chilling because I'm in Poland.
Yeah, it is.
And it's the same in Germany also. If you live in Berlin and if you work, for example, if they know that you work in Berlin, they will give you more than, for example, if you were living in, for example, Monachium, because Monachium has lower cost of living.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, but I mean, I've heard of that for some like American companies, they basically have some projects done here especially in like the in Eastern Europe and some other countries, because you don't have to pay that much money for the same product because the quality is not different.
Yeah. Actually, I also had.
And that's good.
Really
that's good. That's what
equalizes
people.
it, and also it brings up the quality of living. But the problem is, okay, in Poland, and if you go into search, for example, throughout the Europe, and if they, for example, if you rank, for example, every country, which country has the most questions on how to become someone. Poland and Croatia are two countries that have the biggest questions on how to become a developer.
Oh, okay.
Because people who work in IT here, they earn really good money. So they get a lot of attention from the people, which is not so common in maybe other countries, right?
Maybe
but I
not.
had also great words about Polish polytechnicas, so technology universities. That they really put an effort to making someone an engineer. And I can tell you, I know what being an engineer is. Am I as a specialist of electronics and computer engineering? I'm not, but I know what being an engineer is, and I think this is what Polytechnica will tell you how to. It will have rough times, but it's gonna be good. Okay.
Yeah, sure. For sure.
I think the biggest advice I can give to anyone who is still in Polytechnica is to never give up, because you only fail if you give up. If you have maybe a professor who is hard and who wanted to get everyone down or fail, if you're respectful, and this is really important, you have to be respectful always, and you're persistent, you will go to him every time and ask him what happened, what was wrong. He doesn't really have a choice. He really has to dislike you. But if you're respectful, totally respectful, and you don't respond to him being disrespectful but still being respectful, he has no way to deal with you, right?
Yeah, sure.
And it really happens. I from my studies, I will tell you one of you. I failed one course. Okay. And this was the whole of my whole year. The problem was that it was let me remember, it was a math analysis. Okay. The problem was that on the exercises, we had the same professor for exercises and for lectures. And the exercises, the problem was that sometimes our professor was like, okay, you please go to the dashboard, you will solve this equation. And the person was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. And other people started to, okay, this is working. The professor,
this is appropriate.
You can do this. But usually, what could the professor say? It's not a kindergarten,
he cannot force you to.
Yeah, exactly. And this was kind of disrespectful. And also, not many people went to the lectures. So, he made us
basically he had some interest in failing more people.
So this is where the lack of respect came to work. We didn't respect him as a teacher. And we get consequences of this. And actually, I really like this example because it showed me, okay, you need to respect everyone. I failed it, but I learned my lesson, and also the collective things of things. I wasn't the one of the person who said, okay, I'm not going to dashboard, but I had to pay for it. Because someone in my group did.
Yeah, I see. Wow, that's a great lesson, actually.
Yeah, they will make you learn life. And what is engineering in Politechnika Wrocławska. That's why I think it's a great place to learn. And you will be a valuable member of the workforce, definitely.
Wow, I cannot describe how happy I am that we recorded this podcast. So thank you very much for coming, and hope to see you here in the future.
I had really also fun. Thank you for inviting me, and let's see what the future brings.
You're very welcome, and let's say bye to our listeners. Goodbye. This episode was recorded at Radio Luz, LUZ, on campus of Wrocław University of Science and Technology. You can find more episodes on our YouTube channel, as well as on various other platforms connected to Radio Luz. You can write to us to 51st.parallel.podcast@gmail.com, which is 51st.parallel.podcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.